Hey everybody, and welcome to week 11. We're getting real close to the end now. So we're kind of wrapping it up. This week, main thing is you got to turn in your milestone 4 at the end of the week. But we have 2 more chapters to cover. There's no quizzes attached to them. We don't have any real external or outside of the textbook types of things to read up on, because I want you to concentrate on completing milestone 4. Make sure you are updating your milestones with the feedback I've given you. And the main reason for doing that is when you go to do the final plan here at the end of the following week, you're going to be able to use your milestones, and you'll have updated all the changes that you needed to make. And it's really not too big of a deal to do or too hard to do. So I'm going to give you the chance to kind of get caught up this week. So all you really need to do is read the chapters and gain the knowledge from those that you need to do. So let's talk about the chapters real quick. But just to be clear, I'll put out some more information on what the final plan is, so don't worry about that. But it gives you a good idea that you're really going to be able to use a lot of the work you've already done. So don't worry about some huge document you have to write and within the course of a week. You don't. It's going to be more assembling than it is writing. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the chapters this week. There's chapter 14, which is about customer satisfaction and building customer relationships, and chapter 15 is about marketing research tools. And I'm going to give a little precursor to both of these chapters. These are areas of marketing that are undergoing massive changes right now with AI and big data. It's just fundamentally changing how we look at these things and how we act on them. And it's changing so much that I would, if you're looking at a career marketing, as much as we're not talking about this is something you need to pursue from a knowledge standpoint and really understand how AI and big data are really, really affecting these in a very big way. They're also not part of our marketing plan, which they probably would normally have something to do with it. But the whole idea behind these things is to use information as we go along. So we've got our marketing plan going. We use that information. We decide we're going to change our approach based on the research that we're getting. And hopefully it's not a 180-degree turn. It probably isn't. They're course corrections, we call them. They're just little minor changes that we make because of what we're learning from these activities. So let's talk about that real quick. Take a look at the text. So for chapter 14, we might look at the objectives as being able to describe the different ways customers evaluate their purchases. They certainly do that. Explain how consumers make evaluative assessments. You want to be able to identify how customer satisfaction is measured. And we finally want to discuss the relationship between customer evaluations and brand loyalty. Now, there's a lot of inferred or assumed answers in some of the research that we do. But one of the things we're going to need to do is think about how we change things. So this is your feedback loop from a management standpoint. It's your feedback that's coming back and making you rethink exactly what you need to do and kind of tweak your offer and all the other things that you've worked on all the way up to this point. My only bit of wisdom here is that you need to understand before you start your plan, enact your plan, implement it, get it going, is that the experience manager knows they're going to be wrong somewhere. And it's not important to know that you're going to be wrong. It's important that you look for what you did wrong and you correct it. That's what part of this feedback loop is really part of, is helping you understand what those things are, and so that you can say, like, okay, I didn't get that right, so we need to change that. A really experienced manager almost anticipates where those things are likely to happen in the plan and looks at them real close and tries to get an early read so that they can make changes before it gets too far out of hand, whatever it is. It's usually not a really dramatic thing. It's something that you have to do. But if you don't check it, it comes back and bites it. So there's a lot of ways to do that, but they're going to talk about, in the text, we're going to talk about things like loyalty and customer relationship management, CRM. very important aspect of this. And then we're going to talk about, these are some old direct marketing terms, but they actually come into play here and they become very important, as we evaluate the customers that we acquire through modeling we do through RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value of the customers by segmentation. And then we also look at something called customer lifetime value, which is an equally and extremely important thing. These were never really measured tremendously in consumer products, but now with all the data that we have, it's very, I'm not going to say it's easy to measure, but it's doable. And that's an important thing that we take away from how things are changing. So that's chapter 4. And in chapter 15, we're going to take a look at some of the marketing research tools that are out there. And again, I'm going to really stress this. These things are changing dramatically. What we're going to talk about is what has been done, what's going to be done in the future, and how it's going to evolve and change as a result of all this data that we're collecting. Is going to be pretty profound. But let's talk about what it was, and that's important, basis, because anything new that we're doing is not necessarily different. It's just being done in a different way and with much different results. So from an objective standpoint, we want to be able to answer why marketing research is so important. We want to be able to talk about cluster analysis for segmentation. That's still being done. Again, with all the data we have, it's being done much more effectively. We'll talk about perceptual mapping for positioning. How we have created our positioning statements that this is where we think we are, and then we're going to do some research and say, are we there? How close are we getting there? So those are things that perceptual mapping is absolutely being done, but it's being done in a little bit different way than it has been in the past. Focus groups for concept testing are still done very frequently. They're done more digitally than they were before. Conjoint testing for testing attributes is a way to, try to confirm or, from a testing standpoint, it helps us understand, if we're, how far we are from basically where we want to be. Using scanner data for pricing and coupon experiments and brand switching. There's a lot of things that go on with that. There's a lot of scanner data out there. As a manufacturer, you may or may not have access to that, at least on some level. Retailers use it quite a bit. There's an organization in the Chicago area named IRI, Information Resources International, and they are one of the leading providers of that data. Another organization that is still around, but its heyday is probably past it, and that's AC Nielsen. That's also based in the Chicago area. So those are companies that do this type of information. And then obviously we always do surveys, things like that. We can read and so I'm breaking away from the chapter a bit, but I'm going to tell you something. We can break away from the very structured survey methodologies that we used in the past. Just something as simple as analyzing social media, and we have so much data out there in social media that gives us feedback on how people are viewing us as a brand, and we can get that information back in, and we can measure that against how we think we should be doing. So those types of assessments are an example of what's changing just rapidly and dramatically. So that's what's involved in Chapter 15. It's a real scratch of the surface. The view towards the future is a little less solid than in some of the other chapters because of all the changes that are going on in the marketplace. And so you might say, like, well, this textbook's no good then. It's like, well, that's not entirely true. The problem with that is that if you're writing a textbook, it's really hard to know exactly where things are going, and it is changing that rapidly and that dynamically. So it really kind of behooves us to be a little more on top of it than taking a rear view mirror look at how these things are done, and more trying to get a sense of the things that are in the future, which ones are going to be most valuable to us. That's the real challenge a marketing manager has today. So that's for this week. If you have any questions, as always, let me know. And best of luck, and good luck on Milestone 4. Again, if you have any questions about that, please let me know.